As you heard there, experts believe the plane could have been shot down by a surface-to-air missile. To explain how that weapon works is Justin Bronk, a research analyst from the Royal United Services Institute. Good evening to you, Justin. Tell us about this specific weapon.
Well, this weapon is believed to be something called an SA-11. In Russian parlance, it's called a buk, which translates roughly as beech tree. It's a heavy anti-aircraft missile system. It's usually mounted on a tank-like tracked launcher, so it looks a bit like a tank with four very large missiles on the top. It's got its own radar. In a state role within an armed force, it's usually hooked up to a larger radar in a command vehicle and integrated as well and fed information from air traffic control. So normally they would be aware of commercial flights, but in this instance being operated by the separatists, as the best information available at the moment suggests, they were operating just a vehicle on its own, so they were using the internal radar, and they probably had absolutely no idea that there were airliners above them.
Did analysts like yourself know before this that they had this kind of weapon?
Well, this sort of capability in separatist hands is certainly very new. The first sort of hints that they had something like this only really surfaced at the beginning of this week when a Ukrainian military transport, so a cargo plane called an Antonov 26 was shot down on Monday, and that was shot down at about 22,000 feet, so quite high up. And that is out of range of the shoulder-fired man pads, which have been the sort of standard anti-aircraft armament of the rebels in Ukraine in previous months. So at that point, it looked like there was something more powerful that the rebels had got hold of, and now we know what it is.
Well, it begs the question then, how did they get it? Either they took it when they shouldn't have, or they were given it. Either way, it doesn't look particularly good for Russia, does it?
Yeah. Well, of course, there are two places it could have come from. One is from Ukrainian depots and one is from Russia across the border. The most likely outcome by far is that it's from Russia, because while the Ukrainian military does possess these systems, most of the Ukrainian military depots that were taken over by the rebels that were overrun months ago. And the rebels have had pressing need for anti-aircraft armament. They've been using lots of surface-to-air missiles. They've shot down many planes, but they've been constantly asking Russia for more. So if they had captured these months ago, we'd have seen them in operation, we'd have seen them being used. So why they have come to light now, this week, my instinct would be that given the military reverses that the rebels have suffered in the last week and a half, losing Slavyansk, and the Ukrainian military's increasingly confident use of air power, that they've appealed to Russia once again for heavier anti-aircraft systems, and this time the Russians have sent it.
Justin, many thanks indeed.
You're welcome.